Hey everybody, how's it going? Looks like Andy's getting a call here on the other side of this. Um, Hopefully you're doing well. I saw that 4 people jumped on as soon as we went live, so I hope you guys are all doing well. Andy just turned off his camera. I think he's going to answer the phone. So we're going to have a fun stream today. We're going to talk about having some fun with Microsoft Teams cameras and just a lot of different options, kind of playing with different applications from OBS Studio, which a lot of people talk about, to what's built into Microsoft Teams, and then a couple of maybe more Mac specific options. There's an app called ECamm Live and some other cool little utilities that we can do to kind of spice up our cameras a little bit in Microsoft Teams. So we wanted to talk about that today. And before we get started, for all of you guys who are watching online, drop in the chat where you're watching from. Let us know where you're at today, and we'll throw that on the screen here. So Andy is still away at the moment, so we'll let him finish up his call and jump back onto the live stream here last minute. But yeah, let me know where you guys are watching from. I'm in Kansas City today. We're doing it a little bit later than normal. I had a doctor's appointment this morning, so sorry for the delay if you were used to hanging out with us in the Friday morning time frame. We got Ross here, says that they're watching from Scotland. Hey, that sounds pretty nice still. Clinker 1966, Kearney, Missouri. That's where I'm at. Yeah, I say Kansas City, but technically Kearney, Missouri is where I live. We moved just outside of Kansas City, up north a little bit. We got a greetings from Germany as well as South Carolina. Thanks for joining us from all over the place. Andy is also live on his channel too. I saw that he added his channel, so that's pretty cool. That's a new feature that we're trying out today. Is in Restream, there's the ability to add pair channels. So when I created this event, I was able to give Andy a special link to click on, and then he could add his own social media channels. So he could do his Twitter account, his YouTube channels, things like that. So we can kind of, get a little bit, broader reach that way. Oh, that's cool. You can listen to the amphitheater concerts. So Clinker 1966 is listening or hanging out from the same city that I'm in, Kearney, Missouri. So we were just at the amphitheater last week with the Jesse James Festival. So that was a good time. It was nice weather for it. So how you doing, Andy?
I'm good. Sorry about that.
Fine from your phone call?
I've been in. I got a client on site for the first time in like 18 months on Monday, and they've been trying to connect with me all day. Kind of a heads up for some things that we're getting there. And right when we went live, they called, and I'm like, oh, so
that's awesome.
Kind of a last minute emergency. So sorry about that, but
that's funny.
Everything's squared
no
away.
worries, man.
We're good to go.
Yeah, no problem. It's been like that way for me today too. Like I for some reason I had a doctor's appointment this morning. I got on, my first meeting was at 11 o'clock with Microsoft, and immediately I had like 5 different people reaching out to me for different things, and I got kind of scared because I thought, man, if more than one person is IMing me at the same time or calling me, something really bad must be going on. But it was just like 5 different people with like different kind of smallish things. And it's like, hey, it's Friday, I don't have any meetings. John must not have any meetings. So, let's see if he can do a favor for me.
My week has been the same. I've been in one nonstop meeting in Microsoft Teams for the duration of pretty much the last 2 weeks. So
really,
I've been deep diving into video, but it's been just meeting to training to meeting to training. I really value that 15-minute buffer in between meetings now, just to be able to catch your breath and move into the next one. it's been a busy meeting week. So this one's something I've been looking forward to.
Yeah.
Just talking about video, just diving into
Yeah, this will be fun.
video rather than just using it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, this will be fun to play with. I personally, like I kind of went into OBS and doing complex things, and I go through waves, right? Where I will make something super complicated and really whiz bang and like automated and stuff, and then I'll go through times where like I want to simplify everything, and I want to just like get back to the basics, only show my regular webcam, maybe even go with like just a regular USB webcam, even or something like that. And I'm kind of in that phase right now where I've got like a happy medium. I've got a professional grade camera. I've got my lighting all set up. I just moved into this house in February, so I got the office going. But I'm not using my ATEM Mini right now. I'm not doing any virtual cameras through Microsoft Teams. I'm just kind of like trying to get as good of an image as I can and as good of audio as I can, and putting that into Teams natively. What about you?
So this has been almost a 2-year experiment for me. Much like everybody
Hmm.
else, I've worked from home for 10 years, so working remote is no problem. But over the last 2 years, through COVID and the acceleration of everybody working from home, I needed
Hmm.
to level up. I needed to do a little bit more. So, like, I've used a bunch of different webcams. I transitioned into high definition cameras last year, and I've been
Hmm.
working with high definition cameras and capture cards ever since. And also got into working with OBS because I wanted to do that extra little bit. And also like watching a ton of YouTube videos on like Twitch streamers and gamers. I
Hmm.
was like, there are things there that are working that can apply in a virtual classroom or a training environment. I've got to figure out how to do that kind of stuff. But lessons learned, and we'll talk about some of this throughout. Every
Hmm.
time you add another piece of technology or another, like whether it's hardware or software, you're adding complexity to your workflow.
Hmm.
That's
The
more
risk
that can
goes
break.
up.
That's more that you got to manage. That's more that you got to
Yeah.
troubleshoot. Like we were trying to log in today, and I'm trying to get my wireless lavalier to work, and the
Hmm.
input volume was way too low versus my USB mic. The input volume's where it needs to be. So little things like that add to the complexity of the workflow. And then for me, this was a lot of fun trying to figure out how does this piece fit with this piece? How can I integrate that? But I need to get it to like a one button, like push this and everything lights up and
Mm.
then like I'm ready to go. And so for the last few months for me, I've been trying to build like a live streaming station, kind of like Caleb Pike does on his YouTube
Hmm.
channel.
Yeah.
um, I wanted to just be able to walk in, sit down, hit a couple of switches, and go live. And I'm almost at that point. Like I'm this far away. Like probably like putting the polish on it now. And I did some lessons learned recently. I know some of you that follow me on social media, you saw a couple of tweets that I retweeted from a friend of mine at SharePoint Fest. I got to sit down with Jay and from AppPoint, and
Hmm.
we they were doing podcasts, and I was doing some live streaming, but the signal in my hotel room was horrible. So I went and used the conference podcast center while it was not being used, and I was doing live webinars for a client from there.
Hmm.
And people saw my setup and got in a conversation with some podcasters, and they're like, "Do you want to come on the show and talk about that?" I was like, "Cool." And it was my portable live streaming setup, and so I learned a lot about like how I can break it down and set it up real quick. And I took it with me to SharePoint Fest, and then I took those lessons that I learned from there, and oh, there's Jay. He's in the comments. Hey, man, glad you're here. Got to learn lessons from that experience and apply it to like my home setup. And now I'm trying to clean up all the wires and everything, but just building, just continuing to try to get to like that next level,
Hmm.
and really just make it more than just a camera. Like how can we do a virtual classroom remotely in my home office.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was doing some like mobile stuff at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, and I haven't gotten back into that lately. So that was really interesting to see your setup. You were posting some pictures on Twitter, as you said, of like things laid out and like what you brought with you. I thought that was really cool. I've been trying to find the pictures on your Twitter feed and I can't find them. It's like a little bit too far down, maybe, or something. But
Yeah, those would have been like 2 months ago. I kind of go retweet crazy every now and then,
okay,
so
yeah.
yeah, they might be buried in there.
Yeah, I'm scrolling down. I'm looking for picture thumbnails here to flash on screen. Yeah, if you want, we could probably. I don't know if you have a mobile camera
I do.
possibility, but we could show like what our desks look like if you guys want to. If you want to kind of see what our setups look like right now before we dive into the applications, that might be kind of fun. Not to put you on the spot or
We
anything. I can go first if you want. I've got
Yeah.
EPO or Epoch Cam running here, so let me switch over to that. There we go. All right, so now we're seeing my phone. There we go. I got it switched sideways. So this I'm using an app called Epoch Cam from Elgato, and that allows me to basically pair my phone to my computer as a virtual camera, and then now I can move this around and kind of show you guys what everything looks like. So I'll try to move my microphone back a little bit. So what I'm looking at with my desk is I've got a fully Jarvis standing desk here, and I can raise it and lower it. I'm sitting down right now, but then what I'm looking at is one monitor over here, another larger monitor over here. This is my 34-inch ultra wide, and then this one is a 24-inch 1080p monitor. And what I do is I'll only share this particular monitor in Teams meetings because I don't want the aspect ratio to be kind of messed up. And then I'll kind of monitor everything from this side. So when I share my screen later on, you guys are going to see this one, but I'm monitoring, like me and Andy are talking over here. I've got my kind of to-do list over here on this side. And then in between, I'm not using this right now for this live stream, but in between I've got this this teleprompter set up, and it's got an iPad attached to my Mac as a third monitor, basically. And then inside this is my Sony A6400, where whenever I'm in a Teams meeting, what I'll do is I'll add this as a monitor for my computer. I'll throw Teams up on that side. And then now whenever I share slides, I'm looking, you can kind of see me in the window. I'm looking directly into my camera. And that's what people see, is they see me making eye contact. But what I'm really looking at is I'm looking at like my slide notes and all that. And then down here, I've got the Shure MV7 right here. That's my microphone of choice. I've kind of switched around microphones for quite a while. All of this stuff is coming into the CalDigit dock, and then I'm able to control some stuff with my Stream Deck. So that's a look at my desk setup. I don't know, Andy, if you got your camera working yet or not, but I'll switch back over to my regular camera here.
So
and then you guys will see me.
I'm going to share mine, but I'm going to use a little bit different method than what you're doing.
Cool, yeah.
So I'm going to take advantage of a Apple specific feature, which is kind of cool. And this is something that I use in events. So let me just real quick get this running. All right. So
Curious about this. This would be nice to have an easier way to do wireless cameras and stuff.
Let me see here. Just 1 second.
Yeah, Jay, I'll have to put something together with like my whole teleprompter thing. Andy mentioned Caleb Pike on YouTube. He is awesome. His channel is called DSLR Video Shooter, and he has like the ultimate. He's a very professional video creator, and he has like the ultimate setup guide for what he does for his camera or his teleprompter. And basically, I'm using the same teleprompter, but I'm using an iPad instead of the camera monitor that he did. I need to go to the camera monitor that he's using because one, it'll be HDMI. You won't have to use like an app to mirror your computer screen. And two, it would be 1080p. The reason why I'm not using it today is if I threw the restream window onto the iPad, it cuts the chat off on the side, and then I can't control the chat. So that's why I'm like looking off screen. I had to rearrange myself and Andy because earlier we were like this, and it looks like I'm looking away from Andy. So I had to drag him back over. But yeah, I'll have to do some teleprompter deep dive and show that with some B-roll. It's more than just me shaking with my phone.
All right, so just one more second. Sorry, this wasn't set
Yeah,
up
sure.
on my computer. So
No
I'll
worries,
explain
man.
what I'm actually doing. I'm going to use the iPad, and I'm going to use the iPad camera, and I'm actually connected the iPad Lightning to USB-C into the back of my Mac Mini. And in Apple, on the Apple system, you can use QuickTime, and QuickTime will allow you to use the camera and feed the screen or the camera or whatever into QuickTime, and then you can switch over and share like the screen, and you can broadcast it through your device. It looks like it's trying to trust my iPad right now, so this might be a second. So one moment. Let me just. And if this doesn't work right now, I will get it working while we're in the live stream, and I'll show it here in a minute.
It's going to highlight a comment too from Ross here. And he said he's using NVIDIA Broadcast to do like manual control because you can control like the background blur. It's like a hardware, enabled version of background blur. So it's just a lot cleaner, a lot nicer. The noise suppression is ridiculous on the NVIDIA Broadcast suite. So they said that helps a lot with like room echo, stuff like that. I've got two guys on my team. They built custom gaming PCs with NVIDIA graphics cards in them. So both of them are using that as well for their teams meetings. And they kind of, we're all using just camera directly in, but those guys kind of like take it way further than the other guys on my team because they have that powerful graphics card as well.
Yeah, we might have to circle back to this one in a minute. It's still giving me some problems, so I'll troubleshoot it, and we'll get it running in just a minute.
No worries. There's somebody. Oh, Spencer. Spencer's one of the guys on my team that does the NVIDIA broadcast stuff. Yeah, he joins the team's meeting with a video background playing all the time. So he does like Rick Astley, or on Fridays he does Rebecca Black. So it's playing the It's Friday song on a loop. I think my favorite one, Spencer, is the Vibe Cat. He's got like that cat YouTube video that's just vibing in the background from like the beach, the guy playing bongos. But yeah, so we could recircle that and try to look at that a little bit. I got let me throw my screen up here on the side. I did find one picture of your setup, Andy, where you've got part of your desk here with your Yeti microphone and all that. We'll have to scroll through and see if I can find his mobile setup. What is that? That's like 3 months ago, right? There's a newer one like a month ago.
Yeah, there's a newer one. I did some stuff for the Experts Conference Tech here recently. It's probably in that section that you're in right there. Yeah. And had the whole setup running there. So let me get my other camera plugged in, and then I'll show it.
Oof, look how nice that looks. See, that looks like a thumbnail, Andy. That looks good.
I may have framed that one just a little bit. So what you're seeing there, first off, stand-up desk. I've got the uplift corner desk, so it's kind of an L shape. So that's actually straight ahead right now. And then I've got a Dell 40-inch monitor. That's relatively new addition to the workflow. I'm really happy with that. MacBook Pro and MacBook Mini in front of that, Elgato key lights. I've switched the microphone. I'm using the Rode NT USB Mini. That's the current microphone that I'm working with. Stream Deck, and then because I have two computers, I get two separate mice there as I kind of run back and forth between the different systems.
Yeah.
And then I guess a couple other things that are not in that picture. So the main camera that I use is a Sony A6500. It's a
Okay.
mirrorless cam. This is my Sony A6000. So I have two Sony cameras. I
Okay.
got them both used really, really cheap.
Is
This
that a
one
cage on
is
that 6500?
the 6500 does have a cage on it that helps to
Nice.
keep the HDMI and the dummy battery cables in
Hmm.
as to move the desk up and down. And it also helps to mount it. The cage itself, there's a quick release plate on the bottom, and then I've
Hmm.
got a quick release attached to an Elgato arm in the back so that the camera comes up over the top of the monitor and I can
Nice.
get that nice video feed coming in. And then I've got a Sigma 30 millimeter f 1.4 lens on there, so I get that nice kind of blurred background effects. Like you can see I'm in a room, but you can't really make out a lot of the mess behind me.
Hmm.
It's just kind of there. And then on this one, the A6000,
Hmm.
this one has a yeah, here we go. So this is the Sony A6000. It's got a f4 18 to 105 millimeter lens, and
Okay.
I've used this for a secondary camera and a primary camera. I really like
Hmm.
it. This is what or part of the setup that I had with me in Chicago, and this is on a DJI Ronin SC gimbal. Now, there's some really cool things you can do with this when you set it up right. And as a secondary camera, I really like it. Like I just put it on the gimbal, hard lock it in so it doesn't move, and then I just set it over there. But the gimbal itself, when you pair it with your smartphone, it'll do face tracking. So like wherever I move in the room, if I
Hmm.
stand up and walk across the room, it'll follow me. It'll track me across the room, so I can get up and move around, which is really nice. Um, but I have to use the smartphone and I have to kind of hook it up on the back of the camera and make sure that the smartphone camera is kind of sticking out a little bit. And then you got to balance it on the gimbal, but
Hmm.
it'll all do that. So this was part of the setup that I had that Jay saw and we talked about on the podcast when we were back in Chicago. I'm going to
Hmm.
hook this camera up now, and I'm going to use it to actually show you the desk that we're talking about. So let me just
Nice.
grab my battery real quick.
Yeah, doing face tracking with the Ronin would be like the ultimate. To have that hooked up with USB capture, you'd be able to walk around and do whatever you need to and have it follow you. That'd be pretty crazy.
And
I don't
that's
think I could do
that's
that with a teleprompter mounted onto it as well. That's probably too heavy for the gimbal.
depends on the gimbal.
Yeah. Yeah, I would need like one of those big cage ones or something. Another person I just found on your feed here, Ragnar. If you don't follow Ragnar Heil, he is doing an awesome thing. Him and Alexander are doing this like mobile. I forgot the name of it. I feel really bad. I just forgot like the hashtag that they were using. But this is him in like the back of a minivan. It looks like. Recently, they got an RV, like a really nice RV that they've got like a full conference room set up in with like TVs on the wall, and it looks like they've got like sound bars hung up and things like that. So if you're looking for like cool desk setups, definitely check out Ragnar's um, Twitter feed here.
I
Here's
had
the
wondered
picture of the
about that.
RV. Look at that
I
thing.
saw some of that while they were at the tech conference, and I wondered what
Mhm.
was going on with that. That's awesome.
It's beautiful. That is a classy looking RV. It looks so cool. I can't believe it.
All right, so
Yeah, I was trying to find like Alex's Twitter feed about it. Oh, that one's kind of blurry. Yeah, he's got some pictures of the inside on his Twitter account. They look really really cool.
all right,
I guess it's sponsored
all
by
set up.
Microsoft.
All right, here we go.
Oh, there we go. Let me make that full screen.
Yeah.
There you are.
You're actually getting the big picture here. So that's the laptop running, migration off to the side. And then kind of coming in right now, what I'm actually doing is I'm running through my capture card. I'm using the ATEM Mini, and I get 2 separate feeds in there, so I can run 2 separate cameras in it, and I can even do picture-in-picture if I need. So that's what you're seeing there. And then all of that's actually connected to the Mac Mini, and that's powering the whole thing. And then got the Dell monitor, and there's the Sony A6500. That's the main cam that I'm working with. And then I'm actually running through I think it's a newer CalDigi Thunderbolt 4 hub. It's a small, really powerful, and I've got a Kingston one that I use over there. That's the previous version. And then that's the main part of it. There's the Rode NT USB Mini USB microphone, and then I've also got the Rode Wireless Go that I use occasionally. And then over here we have my previous DSLR camera. This was basically my mom's camera. She didn't know how to use it, so she gave it to me, and that was I used that in Teams as a USB camera. So there was some software. We'll talk about that in a little bit. USB software. So I was using that for a while, and then the USB software stopped working. So I had to switch to the ATEM and do a hardware encoder into the system and go from there. And then I control everything with my Stream Deck.
Nice. So you got the Stream Deck XL too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go XL on mine. I got too many use cases. That's quite the setup, man. You got like multiple docks going on, and what was it? 3 views? You got 2 permanent, but then you could just add 2 more cameras to it and have 4 HDMI cameras rolling.
Pretty much, yeah. It's overkill.
That's awesome.
It's definitely overkill, and the main thing is I'm just trying to figure out how to create a virtual classroom where we can have engagement and interactivity with beyond just hey, here I am in front of a camera. And so we'll talk about OBS here in a couple of minutes, and I'll show you some of the ways that I fit that into my workflow as part of all of this. But I'm delivering virtual trainings, and so I'm trying to do is make it as close to an experience as being in person as I possibly can. And figuring out all the different cameras and how it comes together has been a lot of fun, but it's also been challenging, but it's to add that extra value. So this is the main camera that I talk to, but occasionally, I want to switch over and, have that different view and, that different level of interactivity.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And I can do that with that secondary camera. Change the angle, change the lighting, just kind of mix it up a little bit. But then some other things that I try to do, bring my iPad as a virtual whiteboard, use the whiteboard app for Microsoft and share that on the screen, little things like that, just to continue to try to add value to that talk or that presentation that I'm giving.
Here's a question from Jay. Do you guys use profiles or folders on your Stream Deck? I'll let you answer that first, Andy.
Both, yeah. I use both, and they have a new Stream Deck 5.0.1 beta, and they have paging in it, so you can within a single profile you can page. So we have the 32 button model, you'll have paging, and you can page over in there. I'm really excited about that. I haven't had a chance to download that yet, but that's on my on the list of things that I want to do.
I'm the same way. This is my Stream Deck setup right now. So this is currently what I see. And if I zoom in here, I've added a few new buttons across the bottom that I want to talk about. over the course of this live stream to talk about some of the stuff I've been doing with software to do advanced production in Microsoft Teams meetings. One of the things you're seeing right now is I'm highlighting my cursor. That's a little app that I got. And then I've got like my lighting control up here at the top, some shortcuts across the top right here. But this one right here, this is just a folder. So if I click into that, these are some sound effects that I've got. So I've got a folder of sound effects that you can't really read this, but there's like a whoosh and crickets and like the Mario like death thing whenever Mario dies in a level. I've got like that as a sound effect that I can put into a Teams meeting. But then yeah, just like Andy, I also use profiles. So this folder right here is actually going to switch to a profile. So if I press that, when I'm running OBS, now I've got my OBS profile. It's called Just Chatting, and I've got all my scenes across the top. So inside of OBS, if I bring this up and then bring up the Stream Deck, I've got where right now I'm on the camera only scene. If I want to show my screen, I click that third button. If I want to go side by side. So the top layer switches the scenes. If I need to mute the music all of a sudden, I can hit those buttons across here to like kill audio if I have to. There's 4 different audio sources. In my pre-show scene, you can like hear that music playing back. I've got a pause button that basically goes in and hits a keyboard shortcut to pause that music or to go to the next track in there. And then again, I've got my lighting effects across the bottom. So that's used as a profile. This button right here just goes back to my main profile. And then with that, I'm able to change like my lighting. If I click on the focus button, this is what I look like whenever I'm just working. I don't have my big light on. It's just normal soft white lighting. But I click this blue pink icon right here. If I click on that button, kind of goes into like show mode where it changes all my lighting and gets me ready to go into a meeting or to record a video. So yeah, long answer. I use both as well, Jay. Another question, Andy, from Alex. What kind of budgets did you guys have? Do you have an official budget for filling out your office?
So this is a collection of stuff for me for a number of years. Now, I will admit I did get a few of these things over the course of the last year, but I wasn't traveling. I didn't have travel expenses, so I was able to roll some of that budget into this. But a lot of what I'm using, I've had for years. Like the first DSLR camera, the Canon, that was basically a hand-me-down. My mom wasn't using it. It was overkill for her. I was kind of playing around with it and then figured out that it had a webcam plug-in into there was the Canon webcam software. And so I started using that. And then I ended up buying a used Sony camera for $285. Nice. It had a default lens with it. It was the base 18 to 50 millimeter lens, and so it was really affordable. Considering that webcams were sold out everywhere, you couldn't get a webcam in the beginning of 2020. So and prior to the monitor that I had basically a used monitor that I'd bought neighborhood yard sale. It was the Apple Thunderbolt monitor that was like 8 or 10 years old. It had a built-in webcam, and I used that for quite a while, and that was really good. The things that I bought over the last year, though, like the Elgato key lights, the Stream Deck, the ATEM Mini, and then the Sony A6500, that basically came out of the not traveling budget for me. With all of that said, you can do a lot of this with just a webcam and OBS. OBS is free. Only thing it's going to cost you is time. You can do most of some of the setup and the things that we're going to kind of talk about and deep dive into. You can do most of this pretty much for free or on a shoestring budget. You don't have to buy the high definition camera. A lot of the laptop cameras will work. And most of us have an amazing camera already. It's built into your cell phone, and you can use the cameras in there as part of the experience. So you take this and OBS, and you can really level up your game a lot. The other stuff just adds polish to it. So definitely don't have an unlimited budget, and don't want to think that I backed the Brinks truck up to do this. There was a trade off, and part of that was the fact that I wasn't out and about. I wasn't in restaurants. I wasn't traveling. I wasn't on the
Hmm.
road. So I was able to repurpose some of that money. And just throwing a shout out here to my buddy Daniel Christian in the chat. Daniel saw some of the setup when we were at SharePoint Fest in Chicago, and I did a test with Daniel. We talked about the Rode Wireless Go
Hmm.
lavaliers, and he stepped up and got one, and he's using that on his
Nice.
channel on YouTube now. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to dig mine out. I'm also a fan of the Rode Wireless Go.
Yeah.
I've got one of these as well. I'm thinking about selling it though because I don't really use it all that much anymore. To be honest, yeah, I'm the same way. I didn't buy all this stuff all at once. I would not recommend doing that at all. I've definitely chosen the more expensive route to go, where, like Andy, I've bought something, then I've replaced something with something else, and then I bought something else, and I've kind of just built up over the course of. It's been about 3, maybe 4 years now since I started buying like, oh, this microphone, and then I'll increase my camera a little bit better, then I'll buy another better microphone, and then I'll buy some lighting, and then I'll get another camera. I kind of get to where I hit a ceiling, and then I like get that thing that gets me to the next level. And yeah, I looking at my desk, it's all personally owned except for my laptop. That's my company owned laptop, and then this one monitor, the small monitor, is a 24-inch monitor from my desk back at work pre-pandemic. So yeah, like Andy, I've bought the lights, the cameras, the stream deck, all that stuff just over time. I think I probably got the last Elgato key light before they sold out at Micro Center at the beginning of the pandemic. I kind of like stretched and spent that $200. Is like, man, it's painful to spend that money, but like, if this is gone now and then I want it a month from now, I'm not gonna be able to find it. So I went ahead and bought it. And sure enough, yeah, they were hard to find for probably like 3 or 4 months. They just happened to have one at the local Micro Center in Kansas City. So
So the
it's a
Elgato key
process.
light's great when it works. The problem with it is that it uses Wi-Fi 2.4,
Hmm.
and getting the control center on your computer to connect through that connection is a big pain. I've had nothing but problems with that over the last year and a half.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I've went through 2 separate routers in the meantime. I like them when they work. They're great. They
Hmm.
do great light. They're adjustable, but because of that Wi-Fi connection, they're not. It's not the best experience. Scott Hanselman talked about a workaround on his blog recently. Basically, you can dive into the program files for the control center, and you can
Hmm.
basically hardwire it to a static IP address, and you can set the key lights themselves to a static IP address in your router. And
Hmm.
that's not a solution that's approachable for everyone. That being said, I mean, as great as they are, you can do a whole lot with really small lights.
Yeah, you get your aperture. I have the same issue too. I've had problems where like the key light will get lost off of my network, and I have to like sometimes if I flip the switch on it and flip it back on, it'll work for a little bit. But really, what ultimately fixes it is rebooting the main router. I've got a Unify system from Ubiquiti in my house, and about every 2 to 3 months, it just won't reconnect. Like my button won't work, so I have to go downstairs and basically reboot the whole network, and then it works for another couple months. But yeah, I've had some finicky issues ever since I switched to Unify. So yeah, you got that drama lighting now with your little mobile light.
So this is the Aperture MC, and this
Hmm.
little thing, it's wireless, built-in battery, charges via USB-C. You can do some pretty amazing dramatic light with this, and this is when I got it, was less than $100. It comes with a silicone diffuser on the top. You can peel that off and you can see it's basically just a small LED panel. It's got a magnetic backing, so you can attach it to something. But you put on a
The
silicone
cover really
diffuser.
softens it a lot.
Yeah, a lot. And
Yeah, that's
then
nice.
attach that to tripod or mount it on the back of your laptop and your monitor. And this little guy can give you some really amazing light in situations. So significantly cheaper than the Elgato key light, but lighting is definitely going to be a big part of it. Much like John, I also have accent lighting in my office. I bought it's the LifeX light strip, and I can change the colors and everything. I mainly use that for me. I don't use it so much for the background of my videos. I mainly use it for me because I'm on the side of the house that's dark. The sun rises in front of me and it sets behind me, so this side of the house is fairly dark. So I need the lights in front of me and I need the light behind me, to kind of light the area. But people aren't really concerned about the background, and the camera that I have, the bokeh effect on there, it really blurs a lot of that out. So that's kind of secondary, but it's mainly for me to be able to see what I'm doing in the room. And then the key lights are so that people can see me in the presentation.
Yeah. Well, should we dive in and start talking about like Teams cameras and software camera stuff here?
Yeah.
Where do you want to start, man?
So I'd like to start, for most of us, I mean, we've been taking a team-centric approach to these conversations that we've been having, basically doing a deep dive into Teams and whatnot. So I'd like to start in Teams, just kind of out of the box, a little bit about like what you get from there. We'll talk about what you can and can't do inside of Teams, and then maybe we'll transition over into some of the, let's add an extra layer to it through tools like OBS and webcams and whatnot. So I'm going to jump into that.
If you pop your screen up, I can replace it with mine, or I can drive, either way.
Did you send a Teams meeting?
Oh, you know what? I didn't. I did not. Let me see if I can invite you to this one. Oh, come on now. Loading your calendar. Yeah, I've just got like this standing Teams meeting that I've got, so I'll add Andy onto this, and then we can just jump into it. It's a Contoso type of deal. Bring up my email real quick. Copy your email address. Come on, Outlook. My computer's running a little bit slow. While Outlook loads, I'm just going to go ahead and join this meeting and show what it looks like here. So we've got, when you go to join a Teams meeting, you've got your basic join screen, right? And I've got this. We could talk about this if you guys have questions about it, but this is my home lab. So I'm actually running ManyCam as a virtual camera that we can show off, and it's just looping this girl that I'm calling Megan Bowen, so we can join with her, and she's just using a webcam. I'm going to do no audio so that I don't get like an echo to come in, and then we'll have an active meeting, and we'll add Andy to this as well and see what it looks like to do like the presenter modes and all that cool stuff. So there's that. Let me see if I can just add you ad hoc, Andy. Come on. That. Go all the way to the end. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Bad at using Windows, man. Yeah. Not in this meeting. Request to join. We'll see if that works, bud. And then we can bring like Alex in, Nestor, all these other fake Contoso people. Is it
Nothing
ringing?
yet. Can you?
I wonder if you are you do not disturb right now?
Can you grab the share invite and just
Yeah.
just send that to me
Yeah.
in Restream?
Yep. No problem, dude. Actually, that put way too
Wow.
much
Yeah, you
other
should. It just
junk
sent
in
me div
there.
elements.
Yeah. So
It
apparently
says div
restream
style
chat.
equals.
There you
There
go,
we
bud.
go.
There you
All right.
go. So we'll wait for Andy to join here, and then we can click around. This is a little tip here. If you have multiple cameras like Andy does in his environment, say that like you're not using a switcher, but you're doing like you got two USB web cameras involved, you can actually click your little dot 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 in your preview window, and you can switch between your cameras right there. Another way that she could do that is say that she had a camera pointed at a whiteboard all the time, which Alex asked in the chat. We will talk about the content capture and kind of how that's going to be set up when it arrives. What you could also do is you could go into device settings right here in your Teams meeting, and then under the camera, she would be able to switch to another camera. So like I can switch to this camera and you guys will see my face pop up through, remote desktop, but I'll switch back to Megan. And that's one way that you can switch a camera if you don't want to do anything fancy with switchers or with, virtual OBS type stuff. All right, Andy, you are in this meeting looking great.
There we are.
Cool. So, one thing that's new as well is the presenter modes. And we wanted to talk a little bit about like, before you dive into OBS, before you dive into like buying something like ECamm Live or ManyCam, what you might look at is what you can do natively in Teams for free and without having to run extra stuff, taking up extra cycles on your computer. What is it, Andy? Probably the last 2 weeks, we've gotten the other presenter modes have shown up for us. So now we don't just have the standout mode, we also have side by side and reporter. And then you've got this handy button right here for customize. Now I'll just go through like the standout mode first. So we're going to turn on the first presenter mode and then just share my screen. And what you see is that Megan became, Andy is on screen here. So Andy is cut out of his, display, and he's put on top in the lower corner. This is the standout mode, what it's called. Now,
I'm
one
actually
thing,
in front of
you're in a bunch of it.
Megan. We were both doing it at the same time. That's kind of cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, also, that's kind of wild. We
Yeah.
got two people in here. I wonder if I
Yeah.
switch scenes, if it's going to change on me.
I actually just exited out of sharing, but that's actually I didn't know you could do that. Two people and
I think
stand
that
out
was
mode
like
at
a
the same
glitch.
time. Yeah, we broke the matrix.
Yeah. So that what I did there is this is how you switch between the different scenes. If you're like doing standout mode and you don't quite look like how you are in the lower corner right here, I'll minimize this. If she's like a little bit too far over, she's a little bit too big, what she could do is she could go up to the top and she could switch that to side by side view. And this is what that looks like. So now she's next to her content with her screen next to it. And what's nice about this is as you resize this window, you see the aspect ratio changes and see how she's kind of like resizing dynamically. This is like way better than what you can do in OBS or another app where you kind of are cropping yourself and you've locked in that scene. This is a little bit more flexible so that you don't end up with like a weird situation where you're kind of cropped out on somebody's monitor. Then the last one here is this is the new reporter view, which Andy, I've got a problem with. I think they should have called this the anchor person view, not the
I agree.
reporter view, because a news anchor is in the studio with the stuff over their shoulder. A reporter is like out in the field, right? So I kind of think the terminology is a little a little bit weird. But now she's a little bit bigger. Her screen is, windowed inside this over the corner. and you notice that it had like a background on it. That's what this customize button does. So if we do the drop down for shared content and hit customize, now you have, what is it? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, lucky 13 background layouts. So if she wants to change it up and do like a chalkboard background because it's like in a school environment or something, then now whenever she shares her screen in side by side, now she's going to have a chalkboard background. And this little preview is really handy. It's not displayed through the meeting, so it's going to kind of be transparent. And this is a way that you can kind of monitor yourself. You can put this in the lower corner and kind of hide, your like confidence monitor, if you will. And you can change the backgrounds that way. Andy's getting set up with his crazy green screen effect. What brand green screen is that? Is that the Elgato?
It is.
Nice. Yeah. I'm so close to buying one of those. I keep going back and forth. Do you like it? As you're away from your microphone?
Yeah.
Does it work pretty good?
When it's properly lit, yes, it works. Yeah. It works really well. One of the things that you'll notice when you do the shared background effect is the pixelation. They do a pretty good job of trying to crop you away from your background, but there is some pixelation that happens with it. So when you have like a green screen effect, it's going to look a little bit better. Now you'll notice here, it's between my headphones. It keeps some of that because it's it's
trying to
kind of showing through.
Yeah, it's trying to do it with software a little bit more.
But having that one solid color behind you makes it a little less pixelated around the edges whenever you go into these various modes. So as you switch back and forth between the different views inside of there, it's just going to kind of clean it up a little bit. You can see here in the side-by-side view, it's not removing my background. So it's framing me inside of there, and it's keeping that green screen behind me. And then with this one, there's less pixelation at the edges because there's a hard
your shoulders are a lot better.
Colors. Yeah. But you can see, like with headphones, the green screen kind of shows through a little bit. So just some things to kind of consider as you're working. And depending on the light that you have, if your green screen's lit, my green screen doesn't have a whole lot of the same color. There's a lot of contrast because of the different lights in the room. Ideally, you want to have a pretty consistent color behind you whenever you're working with that, and that'll make the effect a lot better. But these built-in presenter modes, when you have a solid color, solid background, you'll notice less pixelation at the edges versus like with the character that you have on repeat here. Her hair color is blending into the background behind her, and so it's having a hard time figuring it out, and there's really hard edges there. So little things like that. If you don't have a green screen, just a solid color, put a sheet behind you if you can, or put put your back to a wall with like flat paint, little things like that. That's a free kind of hack, and that can work really well to kind of give you that same effect. So you don't have to have a green screen. I got this one at the beginning of the pandemic because they were sold out. Paid a little bit more for it, but I use it for a lot of the trainings where it just needs to be me, and you don't need to see what's behind me.
Yeah, Jay was asking that question, like what makes the Elgato worthwhile for the price over like another green screen? I don't know if you've tried any other green screen models before.
No. So if you can buy used, I got mine used. Buy used, save some money. As far as like what makes the Elgato brand better than some of the others, I haven't tried any of the others. I had the Stream Deck. I was like, Elgato makes pretty decent products, so let me get that. But
that's kind of how I am. Used. Yeah, I'm like in the ecosystem, so I just buy Elgato because I know like in general their stuff is really good. What I like about the Elgato, or what's making me lean towards the Elgato, is what Andy just did. The scissor mechanism and just the portability of it. I've kind of thought about getting one of those ones where like it's a separate stand and then you put like maybe it springs out and you kind of clip it and do that. I feel like this is just a faster setup. I know that on Amazon there's other brands out there that are like the same thing, but I want to say it's like only maybe what $20 or something more for the Elgato one. And I figured like for $20, like Elgato might have a little bit better support if I like ask them for, warranty help or something.
Yeah, so I like the all-in-one design. It's got built-in feet, which are great. It's got the scissor mechanism, so it's all in one unit. So when I need to move it, just pick it up and move it.
Yeah, so that's pretty nice. I'm really considering getting those. We do like trainings on campus where we've been recording virtual like OneDrive basics, Teams basics, classes like that, and we're recording them on campus, so it looks a little bit more corporate, And we went around last time and took really nice, mirrorless camera stills of backdrops. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a green screen, put it behind me, and then that way I can just record the class at home and I won't have to go on campus to do it. So I get good lighting, but I'll put one of those corporate backgrounds behind me. And I'm hoping that it will look good enough that it will look like I was like sitting in the cafeteria recording the class. Another thing here that Alex brought up is, alas, none of those layouts show in the recording, unfortunately. And yes, that is true. You might have seen me hitting record while I was while we were talking about the green screen stuff. That's because I wanted to show one of the downsides of this is that it doesn't record that nice layout where you're side by side with the person, which is a bummer. It's kind of like, classic Microsoft to me, where it's like they got so close and this was like really exciting and innovative. So I had groups at Cerner that were like, oh my gosh, we're going to use these for conference recordings. We can do like our CHC recordings and it'll be great. We won't have to use OBS. Well, this is what it looks like if you go to record that. What happens is it's just the content up top, the ribbon down at the bottom, and you see Andy, he was like a black background right here. Let me pause it. He was just cut out in black right here. That was the time where he was on top of his content, but it doesn't record that way. So it's just like, oh, so close. They got like 80% of the way there. But the one thing my events team wanted to use it for was we can't do it because it's not recorded. So that's a good point, Alex. That's one of the reasons maybe you don't want to do the presenter modes like that.
Yeah, not included in the recording currently. However, we'll talk about NDI in just a little bit. With NDI, depending on how you set the meeting up, whatever feed you get coming in through Teams, you can output the NDI and you can record that however you want. And in post, you can do some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So there were a couple other things I wanted to mention as it relates to like Teams and inputting a video. Yeah. So can we go back to just kind of the main presentation, like without sharing?
Yeah. Let me get this up here. It's this one. There we go.
All right. So Teams meeting, we're in the meeting. We're in the meeting interface, and there's a couple of different controls. These are pretty basic. Just want to point it out. You have the ability to pin someone. So you can right click, you can pin the video that you want. So if you have multiple video feeds coming in, you can pin, and that's the one that you as an individual want to see. So you're going to pin that. That's what you're going to see. It's not going to apply to everyone else. But you can also spotlight, and spotlight is going to spotlight that for the meeting. So you can spotlight for everyone. So that's the difference between the two. So if you're in a meeting and there's a whole lot of video going on, it's really distracting. Just pin the person that you want to see, or if you're the organizer, spotlight the person that you want. There's also, as John just showed, fit to frame. So that's one thing to know about the video itself is when Teams broadcast the video, it crops in to the person, and sometimes it crops really tight. I've seen situations where it's cropped and the person's been off to the side for the duration of the meeting. And so not the best experience. So you can fit to frame or you can, in some cases, depending on the number of like video that you have in there, you can even on the desktop version of Teams, you can click on the person's um, feed and you can move it
Mm-hmm.
right and left inside of that little window there, and you can focus in on what you want to focus in on.
Yeah. So if we I'm adding Alex Wilbur to this, and you can see here. So this is the default. I'm going to stop spotlighting. This is the default. When you got like 3 people in a meeting, you're going to have, I got to unpin you as well. Let me click on the pin.
Yeah,
you're going to have like the other 2 participants taking up half the screen, right? It gives them equal space. Now, you see how much Andy has cropped in. If he moves, it will kind of generally follow him, it'll kind of reframe. You can actually, no, it's not doing it. On mobile, I've seen you can like tap and you can move the person around inside that crop, but I guess it doesn't do it on the PC version. But if I want to see Andy all the way, I can right click and fit to frame. And then now you can see what's over his shoulder. You can see the guitar in the background, the green light over his other shoulder. And then if Alex is distracting or, Alex is not part of what's going on in this meeting, then Megan could basically spotlight Andy as the presenter for everyone. That gives Andy the whole stage and everybody else kind of goes to this overflow area along the side.
And let me share my Teams with you here, and
Sure.
so people can see what I'm seeing. One second.
Are you sharing in Restream?
Yeah, it needs system permissions.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That Chrome screen sharing or Microsoft Edge screen sharing.
All right. Screen recording.
Another thing to note is that like only presenters have the power to spotlight because that affects other people, So if I were to take Alex and make him an attendee right here, so I've thrown Alex over as an attendee over on Alex's screen. If he goes in, he sees that Andy is spotlit. He's the biggest thing, but he's not able to right click and spotlight Megan unless Megan went back here and made him a presenter. So again, it's very important to make sure that you have presenter and attendee rights set up, because otherwise, you could give everybody the power to spotlight multiple people if they click on the wrong thing. So,
all right, I'm all set up.
Awesome. Yeah, there you are. Let me bring you on screen. I'll take my screen away.
Yeah, so this is my team screen. This is what I'm looking at whenever I'm actually presenting. So I see the other people that are there, but it tells me there. It gave me a banner window at the top, and it's like, you're in Spotlight, and then I can exit Spotlight. I have that option right up there. But I see the camera feeds here, and then I'll have options. Stop spotlighting, fit the frame, and then like John says, in some cases you can click on someone's video, and you can kind of move around inside of there. I've seen it on the desktop version of Teams. In fact, I've got one meeting that I'm in, and my colleagues always leaned off to the side like this, and so you can't really see him, and for some reason the camera doesn't follow him, so I always click and kind of move it over so I can see his face while we're in the meeting. But you can do it on the desktop version of Teams.
Nice. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I want to say I've seen it on mine before, but I know I've seen it on the mobile version because I've like clicked and dragged around and that's not running any early ring on the mobile side. One question here, Joe Gasper. I'm not sure the answer on this one. With RTMP coming, I would think that we would get a feed of actually what the attendees see. Joe, I think you're right. I think you're talking about like the recording functionality. I think probably it remains to be seen. I haven't seen what RTMP out looks like, but I guess what you could do is you could say stand up like an RTMP server, you can do it with a Raspberry Pi, or you could do it, on your local computer. And then, you could like stream the team the team's meeting to that custom RTMP server. And even though it doesn't have any watchers, you could just record it that way. So yeah, that would be a way that probably we'd be able to do that. Um, I'll try to remember that, Joe. Whenever RTMP out comes, I might take one of my Raspberry Pis, make it an RTMP server, and try seeing like, does it just capture the stage? I think you're right, it would, because it would just be what's ever in that 16:9 frame. So yeah, that's a good point though. That might be a good workaround for us here soon. When is RTMP out coming? Isn't it October? It got moved to October, I think.
Sounds familiar,
Let's see
but
if we
I'm
can
I'm
find
not
it.
100%.
Yeah. I'm looking it up right now. Roadmap.office.com is your guys' friend when it comes to like if things are coming out or not. Let's check it out. Okay, so roadmap. Let's go to RTMP. Two things. There's RTMP streaming support. So this is the one that a lot of people have talked about, which is the output. That's coming October currently. Then also, you guys may not have seen this yet on the roadmap, but this was added fairly recently, where RTMP N is going to be coming. So you'll be able to produce your live event using the external encoder and use RTMP input so that it'll broadcast out. So if you have like another third party solution or some like hardware encoder, you can like basically inject that into the live event. Both of those are coming hopefully at the same time in October. Okay, so we talked about like, yeah, the presenter mode, the fact that it's not recorded, the spotlighting, fill stuff. Probably the next thing to move on to is getting into like some of those basic virtual cameras like OBS Studio, ManyCam, stuff like that. I think to start out, I'll go really basic and show
Well,
you
even
ManyCam
even
is probably the
even
one I've
before
done the
that,
most. Yeah.
even before that, let's do just webcam. Like, so a lot of computers have webcams built in, and then you got
Mm-hmm.
external webcams, like a USB webcam.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to get basically the same video. So before we like get into like the mini cam and some of the extra functionality there, last year when webcams sold out everywhere, you couldn't buy a Logitech webcam anywhere, and if you found one, it was probably on a reseller market marked up
Mm-hmm.
significantly. So what a lot of camera manufacturers did was released webcam software for their cameras. So you could take
Yeah.
a Canon DSLR or a Sony mirrorless camera or a Nikon or a
Mm-hmm.
Lumix or a number of
GoPro
other
has it too.
cameras. Yeah, and so
Mm-hmm.
you could use that as a webcam. And so all these different companies released this webcam software, and we could start working with that. Like for
Yeah. Do
example,
you have that installed on yours?
I do. Let me.
Nice. I've never
I'm gonna
actually
share.
installed those.
So here's the first screen that if you want to bring the screen up into the sharing.
Yeah, there we
All
go.
right. So I had a Canon EOS Rebel T6. This is
Mm-hmm.
it's probably 10 years old at this point. My parents got it, years ago. Going to take pictures of all the grandkids and everything, and it was just way too complicated for my mom. She's
Mm-hmm.
better off with just like an iPhone camera. So I have one of those, and what Canon did, and they were one of the first ones to do it, and then a lot of the other manufacturers followed. Was they updated their drivers and their downloads, and they specifically released webcam utilities. So there's a webcam utility that you can install on your computer, and it'll make that digital camera function as a webcam. So what'll happen is you install that software, and then you're going to have to plug the camera in via a USB to a mini USB or micro USB to a USB A, and then you'll plug that into your computer. And what you'll get is an output. And I'll switch back over to my Teams window feed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is the the Teams window feed that I have. And so when I go into my device settings, so just go into device settings. I've already got it pulled up. Scroll down, and you'll see underneath camera, and you'll see
Mm-hmm.
that the Canon EOS webcam utility comes in. And so I should be able to switch over into that. And so now I'm on my Canon. So that's uh,
Mm-hmm.
the Canon there, and
Yeah, and that's what I saw on Megan's screen. She switched
yeah,
over, and now I got that other angle, the
yeah.
low Andy.
So this was the setup that I used for the first 6 months of 2020. I was using this exact setup that you see. I've actually had a camera on a slider, so I could
Mm-hmm.
slide it out of the way when I didn't need it anymore, and then I could slide it back because it was where I had it positioned for eye level. It was right in front of my monitor, so I'd slide it out of the way whenever it was over. I think you saw that in a tweet or something one time, and you asked me about it. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Is that on a slider?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I thought
Um,
about a slider at one point before I did the teleprompter. I saw this guy. He's a Twitch streamer who like set it up across his. So like over the course of like I don't know, 10 minutes or something, it would like make a pass, go back and forth. So it was just barely moving. I was like, dude,
I
that's a
saw that one
cool.
too.
That'd be a
This
really
is
cool effect.
That
But
would have
yours
been
is
cool,
manual,
but this
right?
is a manual slider,
Yeah.
so I'd have to do it myself.
You got like rig up like a
But
stick, like slightly off screen. You're just like moving.
yeah, put it on a fan that oscillates. Just
Yeah.
have the fan move back and forth and pull it along with it. No, I had it on the slider so I could just move it out of the way. This was a cheap slider I bought off of Amazon. Didn't really
Hmm.
cost anything. I figured I could use it for some other stuff, but I was using the Canon with the webcam utility, and
Hmm.
so that allows me to take that DSLR and whatever wins or whatever was on it. I could use that and do all kinds of fun stuff. But there's a learning curve with that. First and foremost, these are there. It's using webcam software, so you got to install it. And
Hmm.
then the webcam software was in beta for a while. Most of the manufacturers now they've exited out of beta, and so they're production ready and you can use it. But because it's a USB feed, the resolution is actually fairly low. Like I think this is
Hmm.
lower than 720. So like we're talking, lower than most webcams now are 1080p, and so
Hmm.
this is actually lower resolution than that, lower bit rate, frame rate than that, but it allowed you to make use of something you may have had around the house already. And depending on the camera, you may have had things like autofocus, you may have had zoom lenses and whatnot. So this was one of the first. The Canon website has all of the supported cameras and
Hmm.
everything. This is one of the earliest, like one of the older models that they actually supported. There were a ton of other ones that are supported, the newer cameras, like which the R5 and the R6. They can do
Hmm.
this, and they have a lot better capabilities. But those are newer
Hmm.
cameras,
Yeah,
so
I've
that's
seen
kind of
like Tom
where,
Buck. He's doing I think the R5 uh,
yeah,
with the webcam utility.
yeah. So that's where I started. Now I'm on a Apple system. At some point around June of last year, 2020, Microsoft updated Teams for Apple for Mac, and it broke the webcam utility. It was a update to Apple's security settings,
Hmm.
and that in turn broke Teams. That wasn't fixed until 2021, so it was almost a year later that webcam utility was fixed. And I was using the Canon camera, I was using the green screen, and I was doing my own overlays, Andy on top of content, using the green screen and OBS and that. And it was going really well, and then that broke, and I didn't have a way to fix it, so I had to pivot, and that's why I ended up buying the Sony camera, because the Sony camera had a clean HDMI out through
Hmm.
a capture card, and so I was able to use that as opposed to a webcam. So what we're sharing in that Teams meeting, that's a webcam solution. So that's the EOS webcam utility, and now most of your major camera providers have those. If you have a
Yeah,
DSLR
I
laying
know
around or
Sony does
mirrorless
that
camera,
too.
yeah,
I've got a Panasonic G85, and it was the one model too low that wasn't supported. So that's why I never tried it out during like the early part of the pandemic because like I was just outside of support, and then now I just got the Sony A6400 that is supported by the Sony version. But for me personally, it's like I've got an Elgato Cam Link, which is what I'm using right now. I got an A10 Mini. I got a couple ways to connect it, so I just use HDMI. But a lot of people have jumped on the USB, and I hear that it's almost no lag. I think some camera models it'll even power the camera over the USB as well. So your mileage might vary. You might want to do a little bit of Google searching to see like hey, well my model Sony, would it do a video and would it charge, or do I still need a dummy battery? One of the cameras I think a lot of people do that's a simple, really simple setup is to get a GoPro. Like older model GoPros are actually pretty cheap to find used on like Facebook Marketplace and stuff, and that'll power it and be your webcam for you. Unfortunately, my two little cameras that I've got, my GoPro Max, it does not work for that. I have a 360 camera for that. And then my DJI Osmo Pocket, I've got the first generation. That one also doesn't support it because I was hoping I could, if I could get the Osmo Pocket to do face tracking and like HDMI out or do a webcam output, then it'd be like you, Andy, where you've got like the Ronin. Then I could have like a Teams camera that would follow me around. But unfortunately, the Osmo doesn't do that. So you got to go with like something wild like a Ronin and HDMI capture.
So to a point that you just brought up, with if you're going to use a camera as a webcam, a dummy battery is definitely the way to go. So a dummy battery, they make them for all models. For those of you that aren't familiar with this, basically it fits in the battery compartment, it matches up, and then it actually plugs into an AC adapter. And most of the mirrorless cameras, whatever, they'll have like a silicone flap so that the cord can actually exit out of it. And so you can pick these up, $40-$50 online, and this will power the camera all day. I would run full day training classes with the Canon camera and just use the dummy battery. And it would never overheat because there's very little actual. It's not like a battery. It's just delivering power. So the dummy battery was definitely a game changer. And you'll find when we start getting into some more in-depth stuff with the cameras in a minute, some cameras have a maximum recording time. They turn off after 30 minutes, depending on what you're doing. So having a dummy battery, you can power it all day, and you don't have to switch batteries constantly.
Yeah, because you're not actually recording.
No.
It's just sitting there idle. It's sending out, it's clean feed. That's what I do too. I've got a dummy battery for the Sony and a dummy battery for my Panasonic. And yeah, the Sony's been running, gosh, it's been, I think 10 or 12 weeks now since I set it up on my desk. And then before that, the Panasonic, I had that running on my desk for, gosh, it was powered on the whole time in my old house for like a year. And then I powered it down, put it back on my new desk in the new house, and then it was powered on from February until like mid-June. So I never switch off my camera. It's running dummy battery. The screen is just always there, always on, and it's just a webcam for me. I don't even have an SD card in these cameras. So
some of them they make you have an SD card in it in order to run it even as a webcam. Really? So that's just kind of a heads up to know about. We'll talk about some of the other things with the cameras and HDMI out in a minute. Did you want to talk about some of the other webcam like software that we can use?
Yeah, sure. I can show ManyCam. One of the pieces of software that I'm using for my home lab right now is ManyCam, and it's one of the cheapest options out there. It does cost money if you want to remove the watermark, but you can download this for free and then just keep this ManyCam watermark on there. Well, today it's 25% off apparently to remove that watermark. But what I'm doing is this ManyCam application, I just downloaded it for free, and you can do like certain resolutions and stuff. And across the bottom is basically what your sources are. So what I did was I clicked on the plus and I imported a video. So like Megan's videos right here on my desktop. And then I just told it to loop forever. But if I wanted to do like an actual camera, what I could do is click on that plus button, select one of my cameras. So like I'll select my cam link, and that will show up here, and I can transition over to it. It might not work because it's in use. Oh, there it is. And then, so I've got my camera working here. It's just a USB or whatever. And then if I wanted to, I could add special effects to it. I could mirror it, flip the image around if I wanted to. If I wanted to add some text to this, then I could add like testing 1, 2, 3. And I could decide like where I wanted to place that on the screen and add a lot of stuff. I got to like switch that layer on. So you could add like a little lower third for yourself. And then you take that inside of Microsoft Teams, you change your webcam to this ManyCam virtual. And then now you see I've got the ManyCam, watermark is on there, but I've got that text that says testing 1, 2, 3. It is reversed for me. It's kind of hard to like, I don't really have like a way to zoom in on this for you guys, but you do see that it is backwards. That's something with Teams you got to realize is that it's going to be a mirror image, so that the reason that Teams does that is if I were to point behind myself at my monitor, it's on the correct side as if I was like looking at a mirror. So that's why Teams like flips that around for you. But yeah, that's how you've got ManyCam. And if I switch in ManyCam back over here to Megan, now Megan is there. So you could basically create across the bottom. If you buy the upgraded version of ManyCam, you get rid of this. You could add, like, if say that your presentation, you've got a video intro, and then you've got your webcam with like a lower third. You've got a webcam, maybe your picture in picture with your like your screen, and then you put your webcam in the lower corner. It's a little bit more friendly than OBS for some people. And then you basically can just click through these different scenes, and what you see is what you get whenever you click on it. So that's one reason I like ManyCam is it's easy to get started with. It's fairly cheap. It does work with NDI as well, which is pretty nice. And then there's just all these other sources in here. So if I want to share a YouTube video in a Teams meeting, I could pump that through as a camera and just use ManyCam for that if I wanted to. So that is one option that we've got. And I think I'll delete here. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just like running Megan all the time. And that's how I've got these people doing a loop. Is it's just a video from pexels.com, like a royalty-free place where you can get stock video and stock photography. And then, I'm just rocking that. Somebody's trying to call me now. We're just going to let that ring out because it's like over on this other thing. Who is it? Yeah, I don't know who that person is. I had to look up my Microsoft Teams room is ringing.
Are you getting spammed on Microsoft Teams? Have the spammers figured out they can call us on Teams now?
I know who she is. It's a meeting that they invited me to last minute. Sorry. So here, like, so that's got a couple questions.
The webcam software is not something that I really got into. Like I saw the ManyCam and I saw the ECamm lives and so forth. And early on, like 2020, those things weren't natively available for Apple. Some of that was just Windows only. So I kind of got excluded from some of that for a little while. I missed out on that. But I've seen some really amazing things on the stuff, the webcam software. Just make sure that you turn it off before you go to like your next meeting, because you might run into a situation like our cover photo for this this presentation where a lawyer joined and he had a filter that made him into a cat.
Yeah, the like Snap Camera was really popular in like the March, April of the pandemic timeframe, 2020. And yeah, it was like people were they were like adding all kinds of fun stuff. So if they opened their mouth, like they would puke rainbows, and stuff like that. But then, they'd forget to turn those effects off. And you join the meeting thinking that you're normal. until you start talking, and then like your eyes sparkle, you know, or a unicorn jumps out somewhere. So yeah, be careful with those like webcam augmenting applications like Snap Camera. They could be fun. I think everybody kind of, you know, like burned themselves out on those things because I haven't heard people
Yeah.
talk about it in a while. I completely forgot about Snap Camera back in the day. Yeah, you don't want to be the next meme going around like the lawyer cat guy. What a mess.
I like Spencer's comment about your phone call. They're trying to reach Megan about her car warranty.
Yeah, exactly. That rang for a long time, dude. It finally just quit. So I don't know what they were trying to reach out to me about. I tell you what, it's can I have a favor Friday? I just checked my team's chat and it's two people are like, hey John, let me know when you can IM. Like, not when I'm live on YouTube. That's I can't IM right now. So I don't know what the deal is. It's like people are doing all their unplanned things on Fridays. Um, so that's ManyCam. We talked a little bit about like Snap Camera, stuff like that. What's probably the next level that we would be stepping up to? Probably
So
something
the
like, go ahead.
encoders.
Oh yeah, yeah. Physical capture cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we showed like the webcam software for like a high definition camera,
Mhm.
mirrorless or mirrored camera, and then you got the virtual webcam software. So the next thing is capture cards. Capture cards, you know, these have been around for a while.
Mhm.
They're really big right now with gamers. So anything streaming, Twitch wise, you know, the capture cards there are actually pretty amazing. But
Mhm.
the capture card allows you to, in many cases, take the physical feed out of a device and feed that into your computer, and your computer recognizes it as a webcam. There's a whole bunch of different versions of this. You can get some of these on Amazon for as cheap as $20. You can get this is the Elgato Cam Link 4K. So it does 4K definition. This is $100. I think I got it on sale at Best Buy for $80 when they
Mhm.
were available. And then there are other versions of that as well. But when you're using a capture card, you're taking the feed out of some kind of source, whether it's um, a high definition camera, or your PlayStation or a TV or whatever, and you're running that into the as a webcam into the tool that you're using. So
Mhm.
with that, there's a couple caveats. Depending on the device, you might not get a clean signal out of it. So I'm gonna try to show you in here. So let me see if I can switch my camera over. Um, Actually, no, that's not what I want to do. Here we go. So let me see if I can.
Yeah, I was trying to show that capture card on the
Oh,
Elgato website too, but
actually,
it's like loading so slow.
yeah.
My
All
computer,
right, I'm
man,
gonna
right
switch
now.
cameras here. And all right, can you switch over to my feed?
Yeah, there we go. Come on, click in the browser. There you go, man.
My main camera feed,
Oh
not
yeah,
the webcam. All right.
there we go.
So this is my Canon camera,
Mhm.
and you see this is not a clean HDMI. You see it's doing the facial tracking, like the focus. You see the menus that are on there. Some cameras do not do a clean HDMI out. So depending on the type of camera that that you're working with, this is what you might actually see. Now, in some cases, there's like a display option, and you can change the display option, and you can let me let me try this. All right. So in some case situations, you can change it, and you can get a clean feed. But see, this one, even though it's not showing anything around the perimeter, it's still showing the facial tracking. So
Mhm.
like it doesn't have a clean HDMI out. Versus if I switch over to this guy, it has a clean HDMI out. There's no, like, it's doing autofocus, and it's able to keep up with me. And the one in front of me, it's got a clean HDMI out and clean autofocus as well. So the The camera will matter. You can go to the manufacturer's website and you can find out if it does a clean HDMI out there. But you're going to feed that through a capture card, and you're going to run the capture card into your computer via USB-A or USB-C or Thunderbolt. And then you're going to use that as your webcam feed. And that's what I'm doing here. Like I've got 3 cameras attached to a webcam feed, and I'm not using the Elgato for this one today, but this one's actually really nice because it was fairly cheap. John's pulling it up, but like it does 4K, which is great. So you can get really high definition if your streaming service supports it.
Yeah,
and
that's what
we'll
I'm
talk
using
about in a bit.
is the CamLink 4K. And yeah, I want to say when I bought mine, it was like $130. Again, Micro Center is where I bought mine. And on their website at Elgato, scrolling down, I put this in the chat as well. There's like, is your camera compatible? And you definitely want to check this before you spend the money on it, or you're going to have to return it. So if you've got like, I don't know, Canon, Rebel, something or other, maybe do like a T7 or something, or T6.
Do EOS.
Oh my gosh.
Canon
Now
EOS.
Walgreens is calling me. You must have my prescription ready. Well, I'll just click on the things here. But what's nice is they've got basically all these, like the M10 or the Rebel SL1. You can look up your particular model and you can see like, well, why does the SL1 not work? Well, it's because the HDMI has a crop and it turns off after 30 minutes. But like the EOS R, that one works good and it's verified by everybody. So verified by the manufacturer. There's some of them that may have like a partial thing, or they might say that it's like verified by the community instead of the manufacturer. Those are kind of like a buyer beware type of a situation. But now I'm not even seeing any. There's some partials under Nikon. So you can see on here, it's like, well, the community says that it works, but Elgato hasn't verified that this D3300 works specifically. So this is a really helpful. If you've got the camera first, figure out if it works with your capture card. And this is pretty universal. Like even if you don't buy an Elgato card, this is probably the experience that you'll have with that particular camera on any USB capture card.
And speaking of capture cards, this is actually my capture card of choice right now. Bringing this up on the screen. So talked a little bit about this earlier. This is the Blackmagic ATEM Mini. Yeah. This is actually the first version of it. So this retailed, I think, around $299 whenever it came out. But this allows me to input 4 separate HDMI feeds, and then I can just switch between them. There's also transition modes built into it. So you can cut or you can do a transition, and then it has picture-in-picture built into it as well. So I could technically have a picture-in-picture running inside of there. So I'll try to turn that on. Yeah, you should be able to see inside of it. And I could switch back and forth and go back into picture-in-picture. And so I did this particular one over the Elgato because between cameras if I wanted to. I just thought that was kind of cool. And this is actually kind of how John and I connected, because I had some questions about it. And John, I think you had one at the time, and I pinged you and I'm like, hey, can we talk about the ATEM Mini? Because I was thinking about pulling the trigger on that. And so we had a pretty long conversation around it, and you taught me a ton about it. And I ended up getting one, and I've used this for year and a half now, and it's been great. There's a whole bunch of different models of it. Going back, I might have jumped up to the next model at the time, knowing what I know now, because the next model actually supports a preview out. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this allows me to switch back and forth between different cameras at the push of a button to do picture-in-picture. But the main thing for me, the biggest thing I think that I really like about it is it's a 1080p device, so it downscales whatever I put into it to 1080p. Most streaming services like Zoom and Teams and whatnot, 1080p is kind of that sweet spot. No, I can't verify that those are the actual specs that those services are going to use. But if you're streaming to YouTube and you're streaming at 4K, it's going to downscale it to 1080p. So if you just stream at 1080p, you minimize some of that and you don't have to worry about drop frames or whatever. But this does hardware encoding external to my GPU. So my laptop, I don't have to worry about using the graphics card. This is all being done external and then feeding it into the system, and all the processing's been done. This has a couple of really cool features in it. So beyond being able to switch between cameras and doing picture in picture, it also has a chroma key built into it. So I could put that green screen behind
Really good
me
one too.
and it would do chroma key and take the green screen out and overlay me on top of something seamlessly. And it was doing all of that with hardware encoding external to my computer. So it saves resources on maybe a computer that's 4 or 5 years old, which was I have a 2018 MacBook Pro. So it's not that old, but every little bit helps, especially as you're working with like high definition video and encoding and frame rates and things like that. So the ATEM Mini for me has been easier because I can switch between different cameras at the push of a button, and I can deliver a presentation, and I can get those different vantage points and deliver with that. You can even feed other things into it. So like if you got a HDMI out for your iPad, you could feed that in, and that would be a source inside of there, and you could switch to it. At one point, I had another computer inputted into it, and so I had a computer in a computer, like and I was showing another screen versus like switching between profiles or running a virtual machine or whatever. And so you can do things like that with it. But the main thing is, if you're going to use like an encoder, there's a single encoder, there's a switcher based encoder. John's got the ATEM stuff up there. I'm a big fan of Blackmagic stuff. If you can afford it, that stuff's amazing. And then like the ATEM is, for what it does, that is super, super affordable, considering how powerful it actually is.
I mean, new, it was $300. I'm sure you can get them used now because like other models have come out, so people have upgraded.
They get
I got mine.
ISO.
Yeah, I got mine in December 2019. That's when I made like my YouTube video about how to do the ATEM Mini, and that was a snow day. So like I'm really grateful that I had spent that snow day figuring out the ATEM as like, I'm going to set up my desk. And I kind of just went through how I set it up as like an at-home setup for live streaming, because like in March, that's like what everything turned into. Like then everybody was scrambling to try to figure this stuff out. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that, we were already kind of thinking about this during like snow days, like what are we going to do if we're like at home and I need to do a live stream, or, I can't be at my desk with all my cool stuff at work, and fast forward to March, I was throwing things in a box from my desk to like, oh no, I need to go home because I may not come back here again. What I like about the ATEM a lot is this screen, the audio processor that's built into the ATEM is really powerful. You have like a compressor, you have some things like a limiter, an expander, to where you can really adjust and bring in like an okay microphone and make it sound extraordinary. If it's got an 1/8 inch jack on it, or if you're going into your like HDMI camera through an 1/8 inch jack and then coming down HDMI, you have the ability to control the audio a lot more. So back when I was using the ATEM on my desk, I used it a lot just for the audio over the cam link. And then since then, what I've done personally is I've gone back to the cam link and went to this USB microphone. But Andy, I recently got this guy. I recently brought this home. So I'm going to try taking this camera or this microphone over XLR and put it into the ATEM and see if I can go back to the ATEM and get like audio processing and stuff, because it's that good that I'm thinking about combining back in. The other thing that's nice about this is they have HDMI offset. So you can do like a frame delay for a couple frames. so that your audio coming through, if I scroll up here to the top, so that the audio coming through one of these 1/8" jacks, it will be a little bit faster, like 3 or 4 frames faster than what the HDMI digital signal is. And you can basically sync them back up by delaying the microphone so that it matches up to the camera. So that's something that I'm gonna have to play with as I come in through XLR.
So while you're there, can you go back to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see on the back of this, there's 4 HDMI inputs, and then there's an HDMI out. The
Hmm.
model that I have doesn't support the preview out model, but the higher end models do, and so it gives you a
Hmm.
preview out screen, so you can see your feed, what's live, and what you're going to cut to before you actually go live, and that can tell you if all your cameras are actually working. You just need a screen for it.
Yeah.
There's a virtual way to do it, but the other models have that built in. And the other models also have where you can, through the USB out, you can actually record directly to a hard drive. So if like you
Hmm.
want to record the camera feeds directly and then reuse that later, you can. You don't necessarily have to run it through Teams. And use that. But there's the software control that's built in. So this is all hardware control that you see here. But there's
Hmm.
a tab up at the top right there. It says software
Yeah,
control.
and you've got
Um,
the Ethernet, so you can control it over your local network as well.
Yeah, so you can have you can have an iPad and you can basically control it from the iPad, and you can do kind of a studio thing. But the software
Hmm.
control is great because there's some extra capabilities in there, and some of that can be accessed via an app called Companion from the Stream Deck. So you can
Hmm.
actually use the Stream Deck as your physical controller, use the ATEM as a hardware controller, and then use Companion as the go between. But that's adding complexity to the workflow. But there's some cool things you can do, like lower thirds and transitions and
Hmm.
stingers. And if you're not
Well,
familiar
and
with
like
those things, reach out to me on
to
social
your
media, and I'll
point,
I'll direct you to it.
about the chroma key, there's a built-in chroma keyer on here that is
Mhm.
better because it's hardware based. It's a dedicated hardware device, better than what you get in Microsoft Teams. So if you do that green screen, I guarantee you, if Andy set that up behind him and then hit chroma key on the ATEM, it would have cut out around his headphones. He
Yeah,
wouldn't be having that, like, that green in there. It
yeah,
would do it just like right on. So that's another benefit too, is like it's just kind of like a little bit stepped up across the board, and then you're not relying on Teams to do the heavy lifting for you.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah. So
ATEM is
hardware
really cool.
encoders are a great way to get a camera feed in, and then just depending on like what you want to do. I mean, there's some really amazing things that you can do with that. Or with the hardware encoders. I think
Hmm.
we're um, about 15 minutes left. I think the next transition we
Hmm.
need to talk about is the software version, or way to do some of this, so that if you don't have the resources to get some of this equipment, how can you do this kind of in an out of the box scenario,
Hmm.
or a free or cheaper scenario. So I'm going to share this window. And this has been something many of us have talked about and used, and we talked about it a little bit here. This is OBS, Open Broadcast Studio. It's free. It's open source software. There are tons
Hmm.
of updates made to it all the time. But through this, you can do some really cool things. You can create different screens and different ways to showcase information and broadcast, and do overlays. And there's some just really amazing stuff that you can do with OBS, and it's all software based. So you're looking at my actual OBS. Now, how do I get this into Teams? Well, there's a virtual cam. So I can start that virtual cam, and I can run that as a webcam directly into Microsoft Teams. So like if I were to go to the Teams client, I could switch over and I'll have a new option whenever I go over there for device settings, and that'll be the OBS feed as a virtual cam,
Hmm.
and then I'll be able to input that in, side by side with the other cams that I'm working with. So that's one way you can do it. But there's also another option built into it where you can launch a projector, and you can share the
Yeah.
projector. You can't see it here, but there's a projector option. You can share that as a screen inside of Teams. So you just point Teams to the projector screen that OBS outputs, and then you can use that for your video. And when you do that, it doesn't crop like a webcam. It shows the full presentation from that tool. So I just want to show a couple of things from the OBS perspective, how you can work with this, and some of the neat stuff that you can do. So the first thing that you do whenever you work with this is you actually create a scene. So you got this little pop-up button, and it allows you to create a scene, and you just give that a name. So I'm going to just call it demo screen 1, and then that creates that. And so I've created a screen now. And then the next thing you do is you go in and you add a source. And a source could be a webcam. This source could be a screen, like a window, your web browser, a PowerPoint presentation. A source could be a virtual webcam. A source could be a capture card feeding into it. A web browser, there's a web browser specific plugin. A source could be text. There's a whole bunch of different sources. And so I can go into OBS, and you're not it doesn't show like the full window, but I can go in here and I can say like I want to bring in a display capture, and it's going to ask me, well, what do you want to bring in? I'm going to say, well, I just want to bring in like my main desktop, and so that
Mhm.
brings my desktop in, and so it shows me like my whole desktop. Now I have a really widescreen monitor, so like my desktop's really big. There's a lot going on there, but if you're familiar with like transforming, you can transform and you can make that like fit to the screen. So like that's my whole desktop. That's everything that like I'm actually looking at live now in front of me. And then I can layer other things on top of that. So I can go in and add an additional source. So in this case, I'm going to go and I'm going to add a video capture device. Now I've already included my camera, so I'm going to just add my Sony camera in. And so now it brings that in, but you see it brings it in, it overlays it. It's really big. So I'm just going to transition that. I'm going to shrink it down. And just like that, I've created an Andy overlay on top of this scene.
Mhm.
And when you start creating multiple scenes, you can do really neat things like this. Like you can say, okay, well, here's my main desktop and it's clean. And I got a little icon on there. I spoke at SharePoint Fest. I did this as part of a workshop that I was there so people could see me in the back and see my content. So I can, add a little polish, but like this is my desktop. And now I want you to see me. I'm going to be on the left-hand side of the screen. Oh, you need to see the thing that's right behind me? Cool. Well, I'm just going to move to the right-hand side of the screen. And now the left side's open. Oh, now I'm going to move back to the left. And these are move transitions. So with the scene selected in OBS, you can go in and you can do like a move transition. And the move transition just looks for an element. And it's like, oh, this is the same as this. So move it across like morph inside of PowerPoint. And you can do
Mhm.
other things too. Like, for example, like if you want to transition, like, all right, my desktop is set up to transition to use move. Well, there's other types of transitions you can use as well. Like I'm going to do a stinger here. And so like when I do the stinger and I like, so this is main, this is desktop, and then I move from desktop to something else, like the stinger could actually kick in. And like that would be
Mhm.
my transition if I had that installed here. And transit like a stinger might do like a cut screen and some kind of animation or whatever. There's some really cool stuff there. But you can do all kinds of fun stuff. So like for example, I have this break time here. That's just an animated GIF, just a little coffee cup spinning. And on top of that, I added some text. So there's a text input, and then there's a secondary text input, and that's a countdown timer. That's a plugin. It's free, and it's called a Lua, Countdown Lua. There's a whole bunch of developers out there. They create this stuff for free, and they throw it out there, and so you can
Mhm.
use that on top of this. And so, like, I do these types of things, like when I'm doing virtual training. So we're on a break, and people are like, "Hey, are we back from break yet?" Well, now you see the motion on the coffee cup, you see the countdown timer, and oh, there's 14 minutes left in the break, or we're getting ready to begin. So, we're going to kick off this session. It starts in 16 hours and 38 minutes. I can tell it when to count down to. Now, this particular one, I want to add a background to it. So, like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to add to my scene. I'm going to add like a image in the background. And I'm just going to look up an image, and you can't see it yet, but let me just grab the file real quick and I'll drop that into here. me actually, hold on one second.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I'm answering a couple questions in chat. One was, how do you bring guests on in OBS? My answer was, I've done it two different ways with Teams NDI, which I've got a video on my channel about that, like how to add it NDI. I use like some Mario characters to bring them in. The other one that I've used, if you don't have access to Teams NDI, is something called OBS Ninja, and that's a free web service that you can do to bring people into OBS as sources as well who are remote participants.
So you can see, like, I just dropped in, it's called a media source. In this case, it's just an animated GIF. It's a small little, file that plays, and I just moved it to the back. So there's layering. So in the sources section, you have the top layer, and then you have your background layers. And so how you layer things actually matters. And inside of here, you can turn things on or off. You can turn the visibility of things on or off, depending on like what you want to see. And you can also go into the properties and you can change the properties just like you would in like a PowerPoint. So like the font's not working really well inside of here. So like I could change the font color if I need for this particular image, or maybe the location's not great. So like I can unlock that and then I can move it to maybe a place where it's going to be a little bit better, lock it back into place. And so like you can kind of see that, like, and so I can do little things like that. And then through my scenes, I can switch back and forth. And then like when it's time to kick things off, I can move around. Now, here's where the Stream Deck comes into play. With my Stream Deck, I can go in and say, well, take me to the welcome screen. All right, now we're ready to actually start. Take me to the main camera. Hi, we're going to kick off class. Welcome to this virtual training. My name's Andy. This is what we're going to be talking about today. And then I can say, okay, well, let's go to the desktop. We're going to be working with this app. And then because I want people to be able to see me, right there I am. You can see that I'm there. Now we need to see that thing that's behind you, and it's a one button click. And so I'm using Stream Deck for that. So let me actually share my Stream Deck real quick so you can see those commands as well. So one second. All right, so let me switch my share here. All right, if you want to bring it back up, John. All right, so this is my Stream Deck. So this, John went through the tour of his earlier. So I have a dedicated button for OBS. So I know when I'm going to do anything OBS, I'm going to go into that folder. So this is my OBS folder. And inside of here, there's my main welcome screen. And then from there, I have like, go to my desktop, go to me on the right, go to me on the left. And then I find that I'm given the same links over and over and over in chat windows. So I hotkeyed some of those down there. So like, support.microsoft.com or support.office.com. I went ahead and just hotkeyed that down at the bottom. So I can like very quickly just click that button and redirect one of my users to that. And, I don't have to remember the shortcuts or, the website or whatever. If I'm delivering a PowerPoint, I got a couple of like, let me move from this slide to this slide. You can bring the PowerPoint into OBS as well. So I'm going to just quickly show that. All right, so let me go back to OBS real quick. All right, so back in OBS, I'm going to go back to that demo screen that I was working with. I'm going to remove the main desktop, and then I'm going to add like another source. So I can go in and add like a different, I'm going to do a window capture. All right, and I just need to tell it what to point at. So I'm going to point it at my PowerPoint presentation.
And it'll list all the windows that are open on your screen. So you just pick from the list.
And so there's the PowerPoint, and like I'm kind of overlaid on top of it. And I would actually, in the PowerPoint itself, what I would do is I would switch over in the slideshow menu. I would go and set up slideshow. And there's an option in there to browse by an individual window, and that'll keep it in this mode. So like if I switch it over into like the presenter view, and let me just make an update here real quick. All right, so when I go into that presenter view, then what I can do is like I can use just the hotkeys on my Stream Deck, and like I'm pushing the physical button on my Stream Deck.
To go next slide, or you can go directly to a slide that way.
Yep. So I'm just using that to move back and forth. and like, I can just deliver the presentation, and like, I can basically just keep my thumb on like the next button, and I know if I push forward, it takes me to the next slide, and if I push, on the back part of my thumb, it takes me back, and it's, I can just move through that, and I can just concentrate on delivering the content. But I can do things like switch between different scenes. So like if I want to change it up and I want to do like a different version of the scene or whatever, it's just a one button click, and it makes it seamless for me to deliver training or presentation.
Mm-hmm.
The Stream Deck's extra. You don't have to do that. In fact, there's a free Stream Deck plugin for your phone, and you can do virtual buttons on the phone, and it
Yeah,
does
it's like
basically the same
$3 a
thing.
month or something like that,
Yeah, and
or
there's even free
$10
versions
a
that do the
year.
same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a
Yeah,
Stream Deck.
Elgato has an
There's
official one, but yeah, there's like touch control, or
yeah,
it's touch something on like iPad and iPhone. Heck, even with OBS, if you go into the settings for OBS, you can custom map keyboard shortcuts. So if you want to have like control option 1 is your first scene, control option 2, control option 3, you can even do that with just your existing keyboard too with OBS.
All right, so this last thing I want to do is I'm going to do a projector window, and I'm going to send that to Teams,
Okay.
and then I'm going to show you like my Teams feed, what that looks like. So just one second, let me get this projector window kind of set up right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to put that up in the corner. All right, and then I'm going to share Teams. All right. There's Teams. All right, so you want to bring that. Yeah. So there we are in Teams. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into Teams, and I'm going to share a screen. All right, so I'm going to open up the share window, and I'm going to go to window. And what I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for my windowed projector coming from OBS. So this is the main OBS here. So that's like that's where I control things. But I don't want to share that. I want to share the output. So if there's a projector output, it's in the menu. You can push it out. I want to share that. So I'm going to click on, send that out, send that feed out. And so now it's sharing that that projector window. And John, you want to switch over to Megan's
we
view?
didn't see that. Yeah, let me see if I can bring up remote desktop here real quick. I've got my OBS on screen right now. Oh gosh, I just maximized the window instead. All right, Megan is connecting. I'm connecting down to my home rack server downstairs. So we got Megan over here. She's attending the meeting. And yeah, see now over on Megan's screen, she sees Andy. And what's cool about using a projector like this is that now, say that Megan makes her screen a weird size. Check that out. It's not cropping it off because screen sharing doesn't crop. It actually it adds black bars around the top or the bottom so that it fits width-wise. So if you're doing a virtual camera, like if you're bringing OBS as a virtual camera, you have to contend with this crop. Like Alex is cropped in a little bit. Basically, it would be cutting off part of Andy's screen if I didn't have my window set just right, or if I didn't want to right click and hit fill frame or fit to frame. But because he did a projector, he's controlling the aspect ratio now. It's stuck at 16:9 aspect ratio.
Yeah, and that's just a really great way to the projector. Like you just need to keep it, you can run it in the background. You don't even have to look at it. You can push it off to a second monitor or whatever, but you can output the projector. And then whatever you display, as John's saying, it doesn't crop it like that. It keeps that aspect ratio. And you can, put multiple feeds and cameras and stuff inside of there. And you can do overlays and, videos and like whatever. And you're sharing a window. And so it respects the window. It doesn't try to crop like it would with like a person. And because I'm feeding things through OBS, I can do some really fun stuff.
One last thing that I wanted to try to put in before we go here is I get a lot of questions about, okay, cool, I can do NDI and I can shove the camera in, or I can do it as a projector, but I've also got background music, or I've put my microphone into OBS and I've tuned it, right? I've added a compressor, an expander, noise gate. And how do I get the audio into Microsoft Teams? Because like right here, I could hit start virtual camera. And if I start that virtual camera, when I go to start a Teams meeting and I go down to camera, I can do OBS virtual camera right here. But under the microphone, there's no OBS microphone, right? I have a bunch of other microphones, but there's no OBS mic. This is where I use an application called NDI Virtual Input. So when you install the NDI plugin for Microsoft or for OBS, it gives you this OBS or this NDI source right here. So you can add some. This is how you do Teams NDI when you're bringing a guest in. The other half of that OBS NDI plugin is that up here in the tools of OBS, you have NDI output settings right here. If I click on that, now rather than using the virtual camera, what I can do is I can send the stage, the main output for OBS, I can send that and hit OK. Now I'm streaming the audio and the video out over NDI to my local network. Then what we can do here is we can go to into Microsoft Teams. Now I can do NDI audio and I can select this other one called NDI video. And when you've got the microphone and the camera both set to NDI video, now not only here in a second, it's going to show the OBS window, what's on screen with my fancy little background and all this, but also if I went to my pre-show, which you're not going to hear this, but my pre-show has music playing on it, you would hear that music in the Teams meeting because that's my microphone. Whenever I've got my microphone set up here and I add some filters to it to add a compressor, that'll be applied in Teams because I'm using the NDI audio as well as the video. So if you're looking for a way to get your audio out of OBS, add the NDI plugin to OBS and you'll be golden. You'll be able to do audio and video that way. So I wanted to show that little trick, and I think that might be all the time we have for today, Andy, because I've got a meeting coming up soon.
To kind of wrap up on there. Yeah, we'll have to do some more with NDI and maybe in another deep dive at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that one was fun. Got to do all the little things with video.
There's a lot you could do with this, and people have been throwing things at the wall for a good 2 years, 3 years, even more now to see what sticks, and that it ballooned out of control with the pandemic. So there's just a ton of really cool things that you can do with cameras in Microsoft Teams, from virtual stuff that's free to adding like cool hardware and doing nice lighting to really geeking out and using even network technology with NDI and stuff like that. So I hope no matter what we talked about, everybody might have picked something up today that they could go explore more in Microsoft Teams. So
yeah, absolutely.
To end this out, I threw our Twitter handles up on the screen here. If you want to go follow us on Twitter, it's at Andy Honeycutt, all one word. And then I'm John_Moore. If you got questions about any of this stuff, or you got ideas for standalone videos on how do you do this, how do you do that, follow us out there on Twitter. Let us know what you want to see, or feel free to DM us or mention us out there on Twitter. We're happy to answer questions and show more of our own setups. I mean, I've even got wiring diagrams for how I set up my home office and all that type of stuff. So happy to share.
I've got something that I'm working on, and this is it builds back on what I showed Jay and our friends at SharePoint Fest. My live streaming kit. I'm working on that, so I hope to have something to show on that in the near future. Basically, I want to be
kit in a box.
Yep. Kale Pike really inspired me. So I'm trying to figure out how can I put some of this in a box and just be able to take it, open it up and let it run. So when I get that, I'll be happy to talk about what I did there and how I put it all together.
Do you know Aaron Parecki? Have you heard of him? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
He has a really cool product for the ATEM with also monitors and stuff, where he's got an ATEM stand where it'll stand that up. It'll put the Stream Deck underneath it. and then you can have like, video monitors, like little camera monitors for like a 7-inch.
Yep.
That would be really cool for like a road case.
That
And
was
he's
also
built
part of my
road cases in
inspiration.
the past too. Yeah,
Yeah.
Aaron Parecki. If you guys haven't looked up Aaron Parecki on YouTube, he has an awesome channel. One of my favorite things that he did was several months ago. He went through like redoing his office and set everything up, and he spray painted everything white in his equipment. So he like took apart the Stream Deck. He took apart like some Black Magic monitors and stuff, and spray painted the frames white. And he has a white live streaming rack, and it is gorgeous. I'm so jealous of the cool stuff that he's done. That'll be awesome. I'll look forward to seeing that, Andy, as you put together a road case.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I'll happily show that one off whenever we get it all set up.
Awesome, dude. Okay, cool.
All
Well,
right.
I think we'll call it here. And thanks everybody
Thanks,
for
everybody.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.